Greetings, my fellow Bantu kings and queens, all my 9 ether carbon beings across the 4 corners of the earth. Yes, I know it's long overdue for another video, and I'm here to give it to you as the spirit leads. So, today I want to address a few things. One, please make a mental note that currently they have banned Dr. Umar Ifatunde from going live on all the major social media platforms. Now, that was inevitable. They were just waiting to find a way to, or find a reason to silence him. And as time progresses, you will see more and more actions from them that will force to silence him. Now, there is not a single word uttered from the lips of Dr. Umar Ifatunde that is incorrect. So I'm declaring it right now. I support and agree with everything that he says, not because he say it, not because I've realized it from him speaking, but because it's what I knew long before I was aware of him, and probably long before he even started voicing the truth on these topics. Another pertinent leader in our community, and when I say our community, I mean what the Europeans would call Bantu, but what is correctly called the 9 ether carbonated beings or carbonated goddesses and gods. Now, you have young Pharaoh, that is also another righteous king of ours that speaks nothing but truth for the most part. Unlike Dr. Ifatunde, which I would say 100% accurate in what he says, you know what? I'm going to say 99% accurate, just for the sake of conversation. Young Pharaoh, I would give him anywhere from 90 to 95% accuracy in everything that he speaks. Then we have Elder Nkosi, or what we prefer to say, Umdala Nkosi. And he also speak nothing but truth. And his YouTube channel is also being silenced, restricted, pressured, and so forth. But because his is not monetized, it's a little bit more tough for them. But they find all kind of reason to strike him on his YouTube channel, to ban him, and so forth. But there's that. So those are 3 great men in our community, 3 great gods in our community that is leading. And as I identify more, I will announce them here because they are great sources of truth, of light, that the creative force, the creator that is in all 9 ether carbonated being has chosen to walk the path that they are walking. And all 3 have spoken on sides of righteousness and truth that makes up the whole picture. So that's our brother, our king, Dr. Umar Ifatunde, our young king, young pharaoh, our Umdale, or our elder, Robert Headley, we called Nkosi. That trio is a very powerful combination. And there are many others like them that may not be as popular or well known, or that is yet to surface. And not only the king, because we have some great queens out there that are speaking truth and light and everything. I will honor their igama, their name, in a separate video, because as you know, the queens, the goddesses, is the foundation. They're equivalent of the earth that we stand on. Now, I say that to say this. Something is seriously going on with our Bantu people. And the thing is, we cannot expect to change what happens to us in relation to other groups, other species that dwell here, until we correct within ourselves. We have to make corrections within our community. And our community is made up of families. A community is a number of family that builds a community. Now, what the colonizers, and we know who our colonizers are. Well, most people know the popular one or the known one, the Europeans, but we forgot that the Arabs, the Asians, the Indians were also our colonizers too. But that's for a different day. Anyway, so we forgot that the colonizers have left us in shambles, have destroyed us in so many ways than we can imagine, that we take everything that the mainstream that we were taught growing up, that we perceive from what we see or hear to be truth. We don't question it. We don't dig deep into it. And that is why we are struggling now. For a group of individuals that have the fifth highest number of wealth flowing through, we own nothing. We control nothing. It's like we are at the bottom of the barrel in every way possible, and everyone is feeding off us. And the problem is that most of us will not comprehend or understand or accept it because we're in denial. We're suffering from this Stockholm syndrome that we know of from a medical standpoint, but we don't know that it's a collective suffering that we're going through. That even though the chains are off our feet, we don't realize that the only reason why the chains are physically off our feet is because they have put a much stronger chain around our mind. And it's evident in everything. The interracial relationships, right? The putting down of our 9 ether brothers and sisters. So them pitting the men against the women against the men, and so forth. Tearing down, it's like the enemy is taking us down from within. And until we realize that, we will always be captives of war. Now, I spoke on this before, but it's becoming so much wider. Like, sometimes it makes you wonder, how can people like us, who have the greatest wisdom and understanding, fall so far from grace? We have come to a point where we hate ourselves so much that we don't realize that we hate ourselves, right? We have so much envy for the other species that we don't even see the beauty in ourselves. We don't comprehend that the ultimate goal of our oppressor and our enemies whether you know your enemies or not, is to be you. And you're destroying who you are, which is what they want to be, which is what they desire, which is what they wish, which is what they are jealous and envy of us for. Okay? So you'll have, and this is primarily, I'm gonna use black men for the most part, since everyone can comprehend that. Um, I know that the correct terminology for us is we are nine ether carbonated beings, or you can say nine ether carbonated gods and goddesses, right? We are not humans. We are not mankind. Those terms are reserved for the other species that walk upright among us, right? That is not kissed by the sun, that does not have melanin, and let's be clear, that does not include the other colored species. That's not what I'm speaking of. Because if you check their nose, if you check their hair, they still have the same traits outside of what we call a dark skin as the so-called known oppressor, because they are descendants and subgroup children. They are like the black sheep of the known oppressor, which we consider to be European. The Arabs did the same thing to us, maybe even worse, right? The Indians do the same thing to us. The Asian as in the Chinese, because the Indians are considered Asians as well. The Chinese, the Japanese, it doesn't matter what you want to call them, do the same thing to us, even down to what we call the Native American, the indigenous Americans. All of them is coming from the same poison tree, genetically speaking. And none of them have existed here on Earth before 6,000 to 7,000 years ago. When conspiracy theorists talk about aliens, don't think of them as green monsters that's going to fly in from outer space. Those days are over with from about 7,000 years ago. They're here walking among us, interbreeding with us, right? Um, and you have to really engross yourself in what the three kings, Ifatunde, young Pharaoh, and Nkosi, for you to piece together the full picture of where these people come from, what their plan is, and what will befall us in the future. This is not a if or a but or a maybe. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not just me saying stuff because I want to say stuff. This is fact. And you can arrive at the same conclusion as I do by simply observation. Right? So they, as in these tribes, right? These subspecies that evolve from Neanderthal DNA, and Neanderthal evolved from not what they evolved from beasts of the field. They share so much DNA with these different gorillas, chimpanzee, dog. It doesn't matter. There was a lot going, and that's a separate story for itself. We have to get into the whole history and genetics to understand the conclusion that they are a hybrid of the beasts of the field, like your chimpanzees and so forth. And then they interbreed with us before and during slavery, which is why we have a small percentage of their tainted parasitic DNA in us. Now, all of them, doesn't matter what group they are, they envy us. They desire to be us. They want to be able to stand in the sun and not get cancer and don't have to put on these chemicals to try and protect themselves, and don't have to be like in the Arab regions covering up to protect themselves from the sun. They want to be like us. They want to have our hair, which is an antenna that connects us to the universe. They want the melanin, right? That we have in our skin that is far more precious than gold itself. They want the talent, the spiritual talent, the physical talent, the scientific talent, the psychological talent, everything that we are known for millions of years. They want it to be the core of the foundation. But on the other hand, We want to be them. Why do you want to be something that's lesser than you? Why do you want to be something that's lower than the worm or the ants that you step on? And I'm not saying that because the ants and all creatures have their value and are of equal value and equal place in this universe. But I'm just saying that for conversation's sake. Why would you want to be an ant? Why would you want to be a worm? Why would you want to be something that does not have the capacity that a spiritual being like ourselves that's having a physical experience have, right? Why do you want to be a hybrid? Why do you want to be a parasite, right? The relationship we have with these species is not symbiotic, right? It's parasitic, right down to our very DNA. But we desire that. We want something that is less than us. And that is the reason why, based on socialization, based on colonization, based on psychological warfare, based on fear, based on everything that happened to us throughout slavery and that continues to happen in a different form today, we now deem it acceptable that we are intermarrying with our destroyers. It's not different from intermarrying with a dog, a gorilla, a cat, or any other species. It's not different. Not because the person you're marrying is standing upright and they're talking and they're interacting and so forth as if they are one of you. That's a mask they are wearing and not a mask that you can just remove, right? But if you would not lie with any beast of the field, why do you lie with that specific one? Why would you dilute your bloodline, right? Remember during slavery, they used to say that we're animals and this and that, and they used to not want to mix with us. That is not a mentality of theirs because we teach them to bathe, to cook, to do everything. They were savages in the Caucasus Mountain, in the steppes, no matter where in the European region they're from, that they claim they're from. They had no consciousness of higher self or higher thinking. They developed that as they interact with us and we teach them our ways. So that thought that you don't sleep with something less than yourself or you don't marry something less than yourself is of us. It's our thought, it's our way. Just as how we would not sleep with a dog, we would not sleep with a cat. It's the very same thing. So when they were doing that to us through slavery, they're just doing what we've always done. And you can't look at it and say it's being unfair, it's being biased, bigotry, it's being racist. And you can't say that. Because if I say to you now, I will not lay with an animal, you would not say that I'm an animalist now, would you? No, because you have a false perception that these beings are not animals like your dog and cat is why you're trying to say that. But that's just a false narrative that they've fooled us in, that they've convinced us that they are of equal stature in existence as us. No, they're not. Which is why we never intermarry, we never, ever cross over on that side, just as though we would never do that with any other creature on this earth. But after the struggle, after all that we've been through in slavery and all that our ancestors have endured, we have done the most heinous thing that we could possibly do in our history, in our very existence, is to lie with the enemy. It's to dishonor our ancestor. And it doesn't matter what your belief system is, whether you believe that you're indigenous to America and America is the Holy Land, or you're indigenous to China and China is the Holy Land, or you're indigenous to the Middle East and the Middle East is the Holy Land, or you're indigenous to the Caribbean and the Caribbean is the Holy Land, or you're indigenous to Africa and Africa is the Holy Land. It doesn't matter what your narrative that you have taken on based on their manipulation, it doesn't matter. Bottom line is you have suffered historically, you have suffered ancestrally at the hands of lesser being than you, because their brain do not see anything wrong with what they do. Not up to this very day do they see anything wrong with what they're doing. And they don't want you to even discuss it or have a conversation about it, to even correct it, or to even give repatriation for the things that they do. However, the bottom line is you have went through a lot at the hands of these people, and then you lie with your enemy. I'm going to leave you with a famous saying: if you lay down with dogs, you will rise up with flea. And that is what we are doing in this day and age. It's not about hate. It's not about racism, because honestly, we can't be racist. For you to be racist, you have to have the power and authority to affect a whole nation's existence and their life. And Black people, you have nothing. You have no power. You're nothing on this earth. You're the lowest of the lowest. You're being trampled upon, right? You're like an exotic pet in their house. Any day they want to wipe you out, they can. And they're trying. They're succeeding, slowly but surely. And the biggest weapon that they use is the intermarriage aspect of it. And they're so good at it that not even their own realize that they're acting upon a grand plan to mitigate, to destroy what is the most strong and essential being in this universe. But keep going. Keep doing what you're doing, because at the end of the day, the sun is rising, the sun is shining brighter than ever. And only those of us who, whose eyes have been opened, who see the truth, those who you all call crazy, conspiracy theorists, racist, wicked, and all whatever label you want to put on us, will be the one left standing after the Armageddon. And that Armageddon is nature turning upon every single living thing on this earth and destroying everything that is unrighteous. And if it only leaves 10, 20, 100, 1,000 non-ether carbonated being, that is sufficient to rebuild and bring the earth back into balance. I stand with Mother Nature. I stand with the spiritual realm. I stand with righteousness, regardless of how harsh and how painful and how hateful you think it is. I will always stand for what is right, what is true, what is absolute, and what the universe wants. I'll not stand with what you as men want. Doesn't matter what race you are, even my own. Because at the end of the day, my own is even far worse than the enemy, who I can see. Because you're used to infiltrate us over and over again. So I stand in unity with the universe, the sun, the moon, the star, the weather, and everything that has a spirit in it that has acted righteously throughout eons, no matter how far back you go, that has never defiled, that have never done harm to the very fabric of the universe. And any of my Bantu brothers and sisters that wishes to walk with the universe, you can't be afraid of speaking truth, regardless of how ludicrous it sounds. And don't seek your evidence in the things that they put before us. It's tainted. You can use some as guidance, but your evidence have to rely and be rest in the spirit, because we are spirit. We are not physical. We are nine ether. We are carbonated. We are beings that are far superior than anything in existence. We are the creator that manifested this realm, but we fall from the knowledge of it and being trampled down by those from a lower vibration, from whence we know not. So I'm going to be posting more videos more frequently. So stay tuned. If you have any questions, any comments, you can post it in the comment area. I'll be happy to answer it. I'm working on probably doing a live eventually where persons can join and we can have a discussion. I'm open to having discussion. It doesn't matter who. I'll have discussions. And I'm not afraid to say I don't have the answer or I don't know something. But I know where to find the truth if I don't. And that's all I want for every single one of us, is to be able to discern truth from lies and not to be afraid of the truth and not be contented in the lie. And Kosi, and praises be to the one true creator of the universe, Sonini Nanini.